In this video, we'll talk about the sense organ which is responsible for hearing and equilibrium. So, this is the fifth sense organ that we are talking of, and it is the organ of hearing and equilibrium. That is, here we are talking of ears. Human ears are responsible for two different stimuli to be perceived. So they help in detection of sound, and that is why there are phonoreceptors, and the ears also have sense organ or parts which help in balancing our body posture, equilibrium. And that part or those parts or those organs or cells are known as statoreceptors. So there are two types of receptors in the ears: phonoreceptors, which are going to be perceiving the sound and help us in detection of sound, and statoreceptors in equilibrium, balancing our body postures while we are walking, bending, or during those movements. Now, what is the structure of our ear? Structure of ear, if we talk of, our ears are made up of three parts. And these three parts are written as external ear, middle ear, and third part is known as the inner ear. So when we draw, we have a demarcation that which part is known as external, which is the middle, and which is the inner one. So when we start drawing, the external part or external ear has two parts. The structure which is visible to us from outside, this small flap-like structure which we call pinna, and a narrow tube which extends from this outer structure up to the eardrum or tympanic membrane. That is known as external auditory canal or meatus. So let us draw these parts and label the parts of pinna and the cells which are present in this canal. So when we start drawing, the structure which is visible to us from outside is like this, and here we find there is a thick ridge. This ridge is known as helix. On the lower side, there is a soft flap-like structure, and this flap-like structure is known as the lobe of the ear. So this is the lobe. When we see the entire structure, here we find there is a funnel-like structure which is leading into the tube or the canal which is inside. This funnel-like structure or part is known as concha. Our external ears have, that is pinna, has three muscles. These muscles are known as auricular muscles. So pinna has, each pinna we are talking of, three auricular muscles. But in case of human beings, these muscles are vestigial, and that is why we are not able to move this external ear. But if you have observed the external ear of animals like cats, dogs, or other animals like cows and buffaloes, these animals are able to move their ears or external ear, that is pinna, towards the direction from where the sound is coming. So the function of pinna is to gather the sound waves. Because we have a flexible neck, we don't need to move our external ear towards the direction of the sound. We can just move our neck towards that direction and gather those sound waves. But animals like cats, dogs, they have that flexibility because their auricular muscles are functional. In our case, there are three muscles present, but they are vestigial. And external ear or pinna is also supported by cartilage. So if we talk of this pinna again, so this point is also there, and I'm writing here It is supported by cartilage. It has cartilage support. So this is the external flap-like structure that we are talking of. Now this flap-like pinna, it leads into a canal. This canal is about 2.5 centimeters long and it is slightly oblique. From here, this canal is going to go like this. It is slightly oblique. And this oblique nature of this canal is to prevent the entry of substances or entry of water into our ears. This is basically to protect the tympanic membrane. At the end of this canal, there is this tympanic membrane. So this canal that we have drawn is the external auditory meatus or canal. This complete structure is supported by first part by cartilage and then by a bone. So this canal, in its initial part, 1/3 part, there is cartilage here. So cartilage supports it, 1/3 part, and the posterior 2/3 part is supported by the bone. So here there is bone which is supporting this canal. This is temporal bone. So here there is a temporal bone which is supporting this canal. So anterior part is cartilaginous. So here there is a cartilage which supports it, and the posterior 2/3 part is in the bone, that is bone supporting. This canal anteriorly is lined by cells which have hair. So here the cells are hairy. Basically this is acting as a filter so that dust particles, pathogens cannot enter. And the posterior part is lined by cells. These cells are ceruminous cells. Ceruminous cells. Ceruminous cells, they secrete cerumen, C-E-R-U-M-E-N, cerumen, which is commonly known as ear wax. So it is ear wax. These are the cells which secrete it. So there is always a layer of this waxy substance. The function of this waxy substance primarily is to protect this tympanic membrane, keep it lubricated. Second function is when the particles enter, they stick to this wax and are not able to reach up to the tympanic membrane. So this much part makes our external ear, pinna and this canal. Pinna is the outer part of the ear which is visible to us, and it is cartilaginous. It is supported by a cartilage. There is a ridge, lower side has a lobe, and there is a funnel-like opening which leads into the canal. So two parts, pinna and external auditory canal. Two, they make the external ear. So basic function of external ear is pinna is going to gather the sound waves, and this canal, that is the external auditory meatus, is just going to collect those and then let those sound waves hit the tympanic membrane. The second part is the middle ear. Tympanic membrane separates in external ear and middle ear. So when we talk of the tympanic membrane, we say a pinna, external auditory meatus, and it ends at tympanic membrane. When we start with middle ear, we again start with middle ear. So it is basically common because it separates the external ear from the middle ear. So here we would again write an additional thing, that is tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane is also known as tympanum or eardrum. It is made up of a stretched membrane of connective tissue. Stretched membrane of connective tissue, and that is tympanum. So that sound waves, when it hit this membrane, the membrane vibrates. Now coming to the middle ear. Middle ear is again surrounded by bone, and it is air-filled little irregular bean-shaped cavity. So this cavity that we are drawing here is the middle ear. and this middle ear is connected to the buccal cavity by eustachian tube. It opens in the nasopharynx part. So this tube, which is connecting the middle ear to the pharyngeal part, is known as eustachian tube, or it is also a connection between middle ear and the pharyngeal part. Now this middle ear, all around it is bone, and anteriorly it is connected to tympanic membrane, and on the inner side there are auditory capsules. In the auditory capsule is present the inner ear. So on the posterior side, auditory capsule has two membranous structures. So in the middle ear there are two parts. Anterior part connected to external ear, posterior part connected to the inner ear. To the external ear, the connection is in the form of tympanic membrane. And to the inner ear, again there are two membranes and it is connected to this membrane. This is known as oval window or fenestra ovalis. And this other window is called round window or fenestra rotunda. We will discuss these in detail when we come to the structure of the inner ear. This is an air-filled cavity. So middle ear is air-filled. It is filled with air. It is air-filled cavity. And in this cavity are present three bones. These bones are known as ear ossicles. So each ear has in its middle part three ear ossicles. Now these three ossicles are malleus, incus and stapes. So we are drawing all these three ossicles with their shape. The first one is malleus. Malleus is, I am writing these names here. The first one is malleus. Malleus is hammer shaped. It is like this. Here there is a broad end and it is attached to the tympanic membrane. It is hammer shaped. Hammer shaped. The second, because many times questions are asked on the basis of their names, or they can be asked by the shape that these bones have. The second ear ossicle is known as incus and it is anvil shaped. It is anvil shaped. Anvil is a hard structure, normally metallic block, on which any other metal can be hammered and shaped. So that is incus. If we have to just roughly draw the shape, this metallic block normally has a broad surface, then it gets narrower and then a base like this. So the shape of incus is something like this, and that is why it is known as anvil shape. So the shape is like this and it is called the anvil shape. And the third one, third ear ossicle, is known as, I am writing it here, malleus, incus and stapes. This stapes is stirrup shaped. It is stirrup shaped. Stirrup is a structure which is attached on the sides of the saddle, horse saddle, and it has a base on which the rider can put his foot and climb on the horse. So that is the shape of the third ear ossicle. It is the smallest bone and it is like this. So the shape is like this. So this is malleus. This is incus and this is stapes. So these are the three ear ossicles. Their sequence is fixed: malleus, incus and stapes. Their shapes are also defined according to the shape of that bone. Stapes is the smallest bone of our body. It is smallest bone. Incus and stapes, they are attached to this tympanic cavity basically, or this cavity of the middle ear, with the help of smallest muscle. Those muscles are known as stapedius muscles. So they are attached here with the help of muscle. So that is stapedius. Stapedius muscle is again the smallest muscle of our body. So stapes is the smallest bone and this stapedius muscle is the smallest muscle. So now let me write here the name of the muscle, stapedius muscle. Now the function of these three ear ossicles is to amplify the sound. So when sound waves are gathered by this pinna, focused by this concha, carried by this canal, and they hit this tympanic membrane. So this is our tympanic membrane. The tympanic membrane vibrates and these vibrations are carried by these three ear ossicles to the oval window. An oval window is a part of the inner ear, so that the sound waves get amplified and then amplified sound waves are passed on to the inner ear, where these sound waves would be perceived by the special cells which are sensory. Now here there is a connection, that is middle ear, which is air filled, and it is connected to the pharynx with the help of eustachian canal. Eustachian canal closer to the pharyngeal opening has valves. These are called eustachian valves and or eustachio-pharyngeal valves. These valves normally remain closed. The function is these valves are going to open whenever the pressure outside, air pressure outside and the air pressure inside the ear has to be maintained. So normally these valves remain closed. On their own, these valves can open. They open while swallowing and while yawning. And that is why when we are in a flight, like when the flight takes off, there is a pressure difference. So now a situation is, we are on the land, we are sitting in the airplane on the land. The air pressure which is outside, that is atmospheric air pressure, and it is the same which is inside our middle ear. Now suddenly you take off, or the flight takes off, the pressure, outside pressure decreases, but the air which is inside your middle ear is still at a higher pressure. So this air which is at higher pressure, it starts pressing the eardrum, which we call ear popping, and it hurts. So people are not able to understand why this problem is happening. Only a simple solution is the pressure of the air which is inside is at slightly higher pressure. How can we bring it to that lower pressure which is in the air above? This valve has to be opened, and it can open while yawning or swallowing, and that is why many a times when we board a flight, the crew members, they give small children especially something to eat, some chocolate, some candies, so that when you chew and swallow it, these valves automatically open, because it is very difficult for children to understand what the problem is. And during flight, when these tympanic membranes, they sort of pop out, it hurts and the children start crying. So they just give them candies so that when they swallow it, these valves open and the pressure outside tympanum and inside tympanum, that is in the middle, can be maintained, and that is how this problem can be taken care of. Next part is the inner ear. So in the next segment, we'll talk about inner ear separately, and then we will see how this inner ear is actually attached to the middle ear, because inner ear is a complicated structure. We will understand it separately, the detailed structure, and then we will place it here so that we can understand the complete structure of the ear.